Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond is a podcast that gives everyone and anyone a place to come and keep it real about their cancer experience. Welcome to Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. I am Chris Donovan, your co-host and producer of thisisfunner.com. And in this episode, we go live on TikTok and we sit down with Michelle Gower, who is living with metastatic breast cancer. Now, Michelle shares with us how she found her tumors, coped with it, have been dealing with her diagnosis and treatments, and just handling this all through a pandemic. She's an amazing woman, and before we get to her, I got to tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. They do pajamas, they do all sorts of things. In this episode, Carrie's actually wearing the pajamas while we're recording. But you can get 40% off of all of their products if you go to carriemadrid.com as a pop-up, or go to Cozy Earth and use the code CE-CarrieMadrid. Again, 40% off your order at Cozy Earth. Now, let's listen to the conversation between Carrie, myself, and a metastatic breast cancer badass, Michelle Gower.
We are here with another edition of Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. I'm in the studio and we are live on TikTok for the first time. Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Are you still figuring out?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it so we can see the feed right here a little easier on my iPad, but I'm on your account, so it's a little more difficult.
I know.
I have to read stuff.
I know.
Why do you do that to me? Oh, that's right. You can't see.
I can't see,
That's
guys.
fine.
So for those who are on live TikTok, I literally cannot see out of my left eye. So I'm blind, and it's probably better that way. So when Milton joins, we'll make him a moderator so he can get rid of any trolls.
And I think we have like 75 people with us on
already.
The live. Yeah,
Yeah, 76 now.
Awesome. Okay, so listen, let's get into this episode. So our special guest is Michelle Barrett Gower. No. Did I say it right? Mm-hmm. I did. Okay. So Michelle is a metastatic breast cancer patient. And let's tell everybody, when were you first diagnosed?
So I was first diagnosed stage 2B breast cancer, IDC, back in October of 2019 is when I found my lump. I went through kind of the diagnostic process and started chemo. Then on Christmas Eve was my first chemo session.
Christmas Eve?
Oh,
Christmas
man.
Eve.
That's not a fun present.
Well, I started with AC, so it was kind of a hard chemo to start with.
Ooh.
AC is the red devil that you've heard so much about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, my family could be off and be home and be around. So it actually wasn't that bad. So it was pretty.
Okay.
But 2019, I was diagnosed stage 2B.
How did you find it? Was it a routine mammogram? Did you roll over in bed like I did and feel a lump? Like, what happened?
I was in the shower and just kind of, I was comfortable feeling around and doing some self-checks and just found it, and it was huge. And I went and woke up my husband. I was like, feel this. Have you ever felt it before, right? Because I'm thinking he's maybe more familiar than I am.
Right.
But, I was only 46, so, I wasn't doing routine mammograms or anything like that. I was a road warrior consultant, so I just...
what does that mean?
Like, I was on the road all the time. I traveled Monday through Thursday to client sites, and then I was just home on the weekends.
Okay.
So it was just huge, kind of a stressful job.
Got
and
it.
I didn't take time for myself. So, I mean, the fact that I took a long shower was a big deal.
That's what I was just going to say. So, like, I know for me on Friday nights, like, my new self-care thing is I'm not going to dinner with anybody. I'm not going anywhere. But I take a nice, long shower, not rushed, because the rest of my life, it's always a quick, fast, right?
Right.
So I get it. So if you're busy, you're on the road all the time for work, when you finally take a nice long shower,
is when you start to feel around and feel some things, and that's how I found it.
Okay. How did you cope with the initial diagnosis? Were you shocked? Were you...
Well, when I was initially diagnosed from the biopsy, I was diagnosed hormone receptor positive, meaning my cancer could be targeted using hormone receptors. And it was weekly positive. So for me, that was a huge weight because I had lost 2 friends to triple negative breast cancer. So my initial diagnosis was, well, as long as it's not triple negative, I'm gonna be okay. You know, we can get through this. And so, you know, that was I was kind of relieved in the beginning, and I called some friends of mine who had gone through it and listened to what they said. But, you know, that was the initial relief was, oh, okay, I don't have triple negative. It's not what Sarah or Marie passed away from.
Right. So you knew Sarah Mento.
Yes, I did. Very well. Sarah and I were good
I
friends.
knew her husband, Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, our parents, our moms were friends. So it's weird where we find comfort in a diagnosis, right? So I was also estrogen positive for my cancer. I was stage 3. I had lymph node involvement. I was 40. I had just turned 41 days before, so I hadn't had a first mammogram. And so I remember telling my best friend Lupe, as long as they don't say infiltrating ductal, we're good, because that's the most fast growing, blah, blah, blah. This is all I knew at the time, right?
Right.
And sure enough, the surgeon comes in, and I had 2 tumors, and he goes, okay, so this one is in infiltrating ductal. I was like, oh, go figure. I have to get that one. But in retrospect, I'm glad, because what that means to those that don't know is if your cancer is fed by estrogen, once you have mastectomy, if you need to, chemo, radiation, you can then follow up with estrogen blocker medication to help you hopefully keep it from returning. I'm not on those medications. I took them for a couple of years and it left me unable to walk. So I said I'm done.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing when you have estrogen.
Well, yeah, and so I was pretty positive about that until I had my mastectomy and they got my tumor out and they were able to test that tissue, which was triple negative.
Oh, shit.
So in that short amount of time in between, you know, starting chemo and then I did not respond to Taxol, my tumor had grown. They did a rushed mastectomy, right. And this is the height of COVID. I was diagnosed right before COVID started.
Hold on, I didn't even think about that.
So you had to go to all these appointments alone?
No, this was right. Well, when I first started, when I was going through the heavy chemo, like the Red Devil and Taxol, my mom could still go with me. Okay. My husband could still go with me. But when I had my mastectomy, then, first of all, there was no elective surgery. So I couldn't have a double mastectomy. I could only have a single mastectomy. And my husband dropped me off at the hospital doors, said, call me, they'll call me when you're ready. And I went home that night. And my mom, I had no infection, thank God. But yeah, I came home that night, they picked me up outside in the wheelchair.
That's gnarly.
I'm drinking wine tonight, folks. And let me just mention really quickly, I am in pajamas. And the reason I'm in pajamas is these are made by Cozy Earth. And Cozy Earth is sponsoring this episode. And when I tell you, are these not soft?
They are wonderful. Look
so
at that.
These were on Oprah's favorite things 4 times already.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
Yeah. This is what I finally realized. What these feel like on your skin is like that lotion that has the cooling or the Kleenex, right?
Yes.
Or tissue.
Like the Puffs Plus.
Yeah. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Puffs Plus Kleenex or lotion, whatever the shit that is. The tissues that have the lotion in that feels like menthol on your nose. That's what these feel like on your body.
They're comfy. And she came in, she goes, I got them a couple sizes too big. And I'm like, you're supposed to. They're pajamas.
Right.
They're going to be like lounging clothes.
Yeah. So I hope to get more sets of pajamas. And we'll hook Chris up too and his wife.
They look good. They look comfortable.
They are.
The material's awesome.
They are. And I'm not hot flashing yet, but I am drinking wine by
just give her
Highway
5
12.
minutes.
So anyways, that's another show. So, okay. So fast forward. You get through chemo. Did you have radiation?
I did. After my mastectomy, I did 24 sessions of radiation.
Okay.
And then, so then I thought I was in the clear, going to start Xeloda just in case there was circulating tumor DNA going in my system. When I went to have that staging CAT scan after radiation, that was when they found out that I was metastatic and it had spread to my lungs. So it had already spread. I mean, I'm very unique in that I have this very crazy, aggressive cancer that loves to grow. And until recently, we didn't find anything that stopped it. It's always been from the beginning.
From jump, just heavy. moving.
Next thing, what's next? Okay, we have progression here. What's next?
Now, Xeloda is another oral chemo, right?
That's an oral chemo,
Okay.
yes.
So you're not hooked up to IVs, you're taking chemo pills.
Right.
Same type of side effects, though, correct?
It was, for me, my liver, I have some liver issues, right? My liver doesn't process
As I take
chemo.
a sip of my wine.
No, they guarantee me it's not alcohol related because I said, my 20s were a party.
So were my 40s.
But no, the toxicity of my liver with Xeloda, I had a toxic reaction. My liver couldn't process it at all. So I was only on it for about a week, but it's oral chemo and I don't think it's any, easier than IV chemo, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So 2 things, because I know there's people that are watching that are probably starting chemo or in chemo now. Everybody's body responds differently. We could be, DJ and I, my lovely friend over there on the couch, we were diagnosed the same exact type of cancer. We had the same treatment, the same chemo, and my body responded very well and took it like a champ, sort of, most of the treatments, whereas DJ really suffered. And we have another friend named Gina who suffered even worse because she was allergic to everything. So every single treatment she had was just a shitstorm of trying to calm the side effects.
Yeah.
So it's now in your...
So at that point, it was in my lungs, but over the 2 years since then, it was about a half a year in, or give or take.
Yeah.
I've had it in my adrenal gland. I had it in my lymph nodes under my arm and the sentinel nodes, so that was removed as well when I had my mastectomy. But yeah, I had it in my lungs, my adrenal gland, which is very unusual, and then paratracheal node.
Go figure. Because you are special. You're like, go big or go home. I'm going to just get it in all kinds of random
I was just going to
places.
yell bingo. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's how we deal here.
I had a 9-centimeter growth on my adrenal gland.
Holy
I wondered why my back was hurting me. I thought, I'm getting old.
Do you know that I have a mass on my adrenal gland, and I've had it since diagnosis, but they consider it as inactive.
Yeah.
I guess it's supposed to produce some sort of something if, in fact, it's cancerous. And so,
yeah,
like,
you'll
I
have
did
a cortisol spray.
Right. So I
Yeah.
do occasionally, maybe once a year, I do like a 24-hour urine collection, and then they analyze it, and that's how they can tell that. Because every time I get a scan, which is once a year, there's the adrenal gland, there's lung nodules. DJ also has lung nodules.
Yeah.
A lot of people who've been through chemo have nodules on their lungs, even though we suspect benign because they stay stable, right?
They don't grow.
They don't grow. Yeah.
Are you going to make that shirt stable?
I do want to make that shirt stable just for Heather Skipworth.
Okay, so I'll make a note. Make shirt.
Make a shirt that says
Stable.
stable. So what I'm talking about is if you listen to other episodes with metastatic patients, specifically Heather and Lavetta, they are hilarious. And they always talk about, the life of a metastatic patient is you are forever in treatment. You will forever be in some kind of treatment until the treatment doesn't work unless you have a miracle healing, right? Mm-hmm. And so Heather always says, I'm just looking for that result of my CT scan or my MRI that just says I'm stable. I'm fucking stable.
Fucking stable again.
So that's what we're talking about. So how did you process that? Like all of a sudden now you're metastatic. Like,
It was, I get that question a lot, and I was going to treatments by myself by that point, right? Nobody could go with me.
Terrible.
I had a friend that I would get on FaceTime, and she would take my notes for me. She was a super fast note taker. So at least I had all of that.
Yeah.
But, I had been going through my treatments, largely by myself, and decided to move back here to California. When I started treatment, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
Moved back here to California where my mom was living, and she has a home here in Riverside, and, moved back in with her, and she was taking care of me largely in Arizona. So moved back here, got an oncologist, had him at City of Hope for a year, was stable the whole time until I had progression. And then suddenly I had progression, and just decided I fired him. He wasn't the right fit for me.
So where did when you say progression, was it getting larger in the lungs or was it moving outside of that?
So what happened when they found my lung nodules, I had 15 across both of my lungs. And I did a year with Halaven and Keytruda, and they were almost all gone. They were down to about 4.
I've heard great things about Keytruda.
Keytruda's pretty. Of course, my cancer after that year mutated and was no longer PD-L1 positive, so I couldn't take it anymore.
Okay.
But it did really well, and it does amazing things for nodules in your lungs or lung cancer, and it cleared a lot of that up.
Okay.
But then I had my adrenal gland grow and kind of get out of control. So,
And inoperable, they can't.
no, it's inoperable.
Okay.
Well, my adrenal gland now, I mean, so here's the good part, right?
Right. Get to that.
Let's get to the
Yeah,
good
please.
part.
Get to the good part before I drink this whole bottle.
And I can't wait for us to start talking about like trauma
We're gonna do
responses,
that.
right?
We're
Because
gonna do that.
as somebody who's metastatic, that's a
Yes.
big deal. When you're constantly being hit with things. But I recently had a PET scan, and the mass on my adrenal gland is no longer active, no longer metabolic. So they think it's all scar tissue. I did have radiation. I had
Okay.
high dose MRI guided radiation on that.
So you didn't just have radiation; you had the fancy shit.
I had some.
She went big. You remember?
know
We
what?
talked about this.
You guys,
My kind of girl. That's why we're friends.
my hospital is Hogue in Newport Beach. Come on, I mean, if you're gonna want the fancy shit, that's where you go.
That's
I
where
think
you
so.
go. That's where you go. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I have some fancy radiation that really just knocked out all of my adrenal cancer. So I really only have one spot left, and that's a lymph node in the middle of my chest that we're planning to radiate next month.
Okay.
And that will get me as close as I've been, obviously, to NED or to NEAD.
Which is no evidence of disease.
Yes, or just really, really stable. I'll be super stable.
Stable. Oh, that's going to be her shirt. Stable master.
That's my superpower is stability.
So, but you're in chemo now.
Yeah, I'll be in chemo for the rest of my life.
And it's IV chemo or?
It's IV chemo,
Okay.
and it's a beast. I mean, we've
Yeah.
had to reschedule
Yeah.
this podcast a couple
Yeah.
times because I've just been too sick. But
Yeah.
How many times? How often do you do chemo?
I do it 2 weeks on and 1 week off,
So once a week or?
once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
a week.
So,
When I can. So right now my liver enzymes are high. I'm not. That's why
your week off.
That's the only
feeling good,
reason
so,
that we're
yeah.
able to do this today is because the other times she had chemo and she was just wiped out. And then this time
I had a break.
she had a break, so she feels great. But the reality is her white blood cell count, right?
No, my liver enzymes.
Oh, your liver
My liver
enzymes,
enzymes
okay.
are about 5 times normal.
Okay.
And they think it's just toxicity, like again, and they know that
Which
it's
is
kind
like
of
it's like it's a good
medical.
thing because you know that it's in there and it's doing
Yeah.
its job, but it's a negative. It's just this balance, this constant dance with.
But thank God for the
I'm all stressed out.
new good PET. If I didn't have the good new PET scan, though, I have
Right.
this PET scan
Right.
now that's
Right.
really
Right.
showing super stability.
Awesome.
And so it doesn't. It's okay that I can take a few weeks break or a week here and a week there or a dose reduction now
Right.
because I'm doing so well.
Right. Right. So you're married.
I'm married. I've been married to my husband for 12 years, but we were high school sweethearts. So
Nice.
Whoa.
we went out in high school. I broke up with him when I went to college because I
Smart
was a
you.
college girl.
Smart you. Very smart.
That might be another show, Michelle.
Yeah.
Then we both married other people and came back and married each other. And
I
then
love that.
we have a wonderful son who's 11 years old.
Oh.
So how did your husband? What was his role in this? How did he play? And here's what I mean by that. Other shows that Chris and I have done, we've talked to people where marriages just fall apart.
Right.
Or they just are so solidified because that trauma bond, so to speak, in the best way, right? They have to come
Right.
together. So do you feel like it strengthened your marriage?
Definitely. I would say definitely for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Because I was, like I said, I was traveling all the time. My
Right.
husband was a stay-at-home dad raising my son. I have a great relationship with my son now, and so it's strange to me to think about working all the time and not having that. But
Got it.
it was constant go, go, go. So our roles changed. We
Yeah.
decided to open up a shoe store there in Arizona,
Right.
and he was taking over really all of the business of what we had to do so that I could just get better. And my mom, obviously,
Was
was
amazing.
out there in Arizona and took
Did your 12-year-old self just, when you heard shoe store, did you think Bundy?
Oh, no. I was thinking of cobbler. I was like, who's the cobbler in the family? I watched that Adam Sandler movie a while back.
It's a Birkenstock store, no?
Birkenstock store, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Birkenstocks with socks. That's a Seattle move right there.
So let's talk about your son.
So, yeah, one of the things I think that's most interesting about my story is I was immediately worried about how he was going to react.
Absolutely. As a parent, that's the first thing on our mind.
Exactly. I've heard when you've told your story before on TikToks and other things too, it was your immediate response is, how am I going to tell my kids this?
Right.
And so he's a very mature 11-year-old in some ways, and in other ways not at all.
Like every little boy, right?
But I was very honest and transparent with him. And I immediately hired him his own therapist that he could talk to, and she specializes in this. And
Perfect.
We call it pre-grief counseling, but we don't actually refer to that. It's just his therapist. And,
right.
It's
so important, and that's why our favorite therapist, Milton, is going to join us as soon as he's able, probably in about 10 minutes or so. Are you watching to see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So he's going to help us talk about that. But we had a Survivor Social here this weekend, and here at the Care Project, which is my nonprofit, we don't have a traditional support group because my stubborn ass didn't want a support group, because all I thought that was what you saw on bad Lifetime movies or Hallmark movies, which was a bunch of old ladies sitting around crying. And by old, I mean like 80, right? And I was 40, and I was vibrant, and I was this, single mom, sports mom and all that. And I didn't want that. I wanted to just sit around and hang out with other people who'd been there, done that. So we did that this past Saturday, and this was your first experience. Right. Mm-hmm. And we talked, one of our survivors is a social worker, and we talked about the importance of being honest with our kids, right? Age appropriate. I think every parent's default is to try to protect our kids and keep their life as normal as possible. However, I think we owe it to them to be transparent when we're having a bad day. We don't need to give them all the gory details, but we need to be able to say to them, yeah, today I'm a little sad, or I'm a little angry, or
I felt like someone picked on me or something. I mean, it just make it
something
relatable.
That they could relate to, and that then you can then tell them, and it's okay if you're ever feeling that way, let me know, because we're going to do this together. I just talked with Karen Garrett, who's on TikTok also under SelfKaren78. Hopefully she's in the room. But one of the things that she said that I loved is that when she drops her son off at school, I have the chills. When she drops her son, I'm going to cry. Shit, Chris. Do you remember the story? She drops her son off at school, and she tells him, hey, listen, today this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the dry cleaners. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to go take a walk, and I can't wait to tell you about it when I pick you up. And what that does for him, I have the chills. Let me breathe for a minute. What that does for him is it lets him know that mom isn't sitting at home crying. Yeah. That mom is being productive, she's keeping it moving, and that she's going to tell him all about her day once she picks him up. Mm-hmm. How did that hit you when she talked about that?
Well, it was amazing, but the other thing that was said was, imagine our imaginations are such that, when we think about, your first chemo experience, I mean, your imagination can run wild. Am I going to have an allergic reaction? Am I going to, whatever, Is this going to be like a toxic green, whatever? Right. But kids have that times 100 because they don't have any parameters to put around it.
Yes, that was so important to talk. When she said that, it hit us all like a ton of bricks.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's it.
Right, because we sit around and think about all the what ifs, right? I remember the night before chemo. I remember the night before my mastectomy. My boyfriend, was nowhere to be found. And I was there with my kids in their own room. And I'm trying to tell them everything's going to be fine, because that's what we do. Right. But in my mind, I was thinking about what if this and what about that? And who's going to take my kids if I die? And I'm not going to die. And you're going through all this. And what our social worker friend told us is, that's your imagination. Now imagine a kid's imagination.
Yeah.
Oh, right, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Especially with the internet. Add the internet on top of that. And your kid, has this extreme amount of options to choose from, and how chaotic it could be for life.
And I think Karen said in her episode, was it Karen? I could be mixing up the social with Karen, but one of them said that their child learned that cancer could kill you at school.
Yes.
And it was Karen's episode.
Yeah, it was Karen's, because then he came home crying because he knew she had cancer. Mm-hmm. They hadn't explained that part yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important. So, not everybody can afford to put their kid in therapy. We get it. But connect with the American Cancer Society, connect with local nonprofits in your area, and see what resources you can find. Because there are some out there. They're hard to find, but something. Look, even on your social media, right? Say, hey, look, I'm looking for a social worker that can help me with my kid.
Yeah.
Put a blurb out.
Well, that's kind of the part of the reason. I'm sure you're going to get to this. I don't want to jump ahead, but I started my TikTok.
Yeah.
Was that
talk about
so
that.
people could ask those kinds of questions so that we could talk about what it is to live every day with metastatic breast cancer.
Right.
Like I get up in the morning and, if I'm feeling bad, I can maybe be lazy for an hour, but that's not my story, right?
Yeah.
I am learning to cook right now, and I'm gardening right now, and I'm running around after, my son and his best friend stays with us part of the week. So him and his friend, and we're just out doing life, and so that's how we did it,
You're living.
And that's I hate to talk about the lessons that cancer taught me, but man, it taught me how to live life.
Yes, I say it all the time. If anybody listens to my show, DJ's over there, amen, choiring on the couch.
Me, I'm not even diagnosed with cancer since I've done this podcast. Every single person that I've met has a sense of urgency, a sense of purpose, and they're going to get that shit done now.
Yeah.
Ask Carrie.
Like me. I said to Chris about 2 or 3 days ago, hey, I think I want to record the next episode. And while we're doing it, let's go live on TikTok. He's like, okay.
Not that hard.
So, no, well, for you, I can't see shit and I'm technically ignorant. But listen, I just want to show up and talk because that's what I do best in my cozy earth pajamas.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh,
That
by
was
the
a
way,
good
go to the website. It is carriemadrid.com, and there was a pop-up window. You get 40% off your order.
Yeah, and if you're on TikTok, you can go to the link in my bio, and you'll find it there.
Yeah.
And I'm donating all commissions to the Care Project, which is my nonprofit.
Yeah. Which is not much, but if you go there and do it, everything benefits the Care Project.
Everything benefits the Care Project. I'm not getting paid. I'm getting free jammies. So, okay. So let's wrap up this portion of recording I want to really get to talking to people, but tell us where you're at now. And then we're going to go into like I always say, cancer saved my life. And like you just said, the lessons learned, right? It's like you shouldn't feel bad about saying that, or you shouldn't be hesitant about saying that. And I understand why you are,
right? But
understand that it's life lessons that are priceless. That I always say on this show, and it sounds shitty, but I'm gonna say it because I keep it real. This is how I feel. Everybody should have a near-death experience at least once, so that they can get their priorities straight and they can understand what's happening.
And she's available for bar mitzvahs and Christmases and holiday parties. She'll give you that life death experience. But no, you're true. It's true. It's it's helped me, this podcast at least. I mean, I haven't had the diagnosis of cancer or life death or near death experience that I know of.
But the lessons learned, right? And that's why we call the show Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond, because we feel like everybody can benefit from the lessons. And we don't just talk about cancer. Obviously, that's the underlying theme. But we talk about anyone who's really overcome craziness.
Anything. I mean, everybody's
living.
got a story. Everybody has a story. In what
Everybody
they're doing,
has a story. And we've talked about all the things that are important. It's just amplified in our life, right? So one of the biggest lessons I know I learned was not having to fit in. Right?
Yes.
We're fed and conditioned to believe that you got to do X, Y, and Z to achieve the American dream, and you got to go to college, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And hey, those things are all great if that's what you want, and you can do it. But it's not the only way to happiness. I have learned, and I've always been a very simple person. I can be a little bougie with experiences, but other than that, I'm very simple. Very simple. I have a very modest home.
I wouldn't say you're bougie with experience. I say you go and do things like
quality.
you want
You
to do.
want to enjoy.
I want quality. I will go and spend $200 on a lovely steak dinner with an awesome bottle of wine once a year, because I'd rather do that than put it in the slot machine.
Exactly.
Or I'd rather do that than spend it on a $500 purse. To me, that's silly.
You just make very strategic choices
I
on
do.
what you want to do.
I
and
do
you enjoy
because
it.
I'm single and I'm a one income person, and I keep it simple, and I think that there's something so beautiful about just enjoying everyday life.
Living or just existing, I heard has been said before.
Oh, that's Milton's thing. Are
Yeah.
you living or are you existing?
But isn't that one thing that the pandemic has taught us, though, is
hope.
about appreciating the small things in life.
Yeah.
And you know, whether it's like for me learning to cook, like
Yeah.
I didn't ever want to, but now I
Yeah.
have time to, and you learn
Yeah.
these different things about layering flavors, and it's
Yeah.
just, I mean,
Yummy
and
is what it
you
is.
just,
When you cooking
just
for
learn
us,
how to
though.
live.
She's talking about layering flavors, Chris.
I know.
That means we need to.
I'm
Well,
like,
I
let's
told
wrap
you the
this
other
up. I'm
day I
hungry.
could have you guys over, you know, for the group. But yeah. I mean, I think that's what it is, right? You appreciate stability.
Stable.
But,
Sure, it's
you know,
already made. It's in process right
Yeah.
now.
You know, I just love having time with my son and learning and seeing things through his eyes. Like him and his friend, they get so excited. Like we're gonna spend the summer at the beach because I have to go to radiation 3 times a week.
Right.
We're like, let's just get a trailer and park it down there.
Yeah, hell
you
yeah.
know.
Newport Dunes. Let's go.
Exactly. So they're like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So
See, and you know, part of this conversation, which we're going to go into when Milton joins us, is he here yet?
I don't see him joined yet.
Okay.
No.
He should just be ending a session soon. Is the trauma, right? So we're laughing and we're joking and we're saying that we've learned these lessons and that's all true. But the fact of the matter is there's still trauma. There's still trauma. There's PTSD. There's ongoing management of trauma, anxiety, scanxiety, all the things. I have it written down here on my notepad about things that people have commented that I want to get into soon. But what is your TikTok handle so people can go follow you?
it's Michelle Talks Cancer.
Michelle
That's my
Talks
TikTok
Cancer.
handle. It's on my Instagram. If anybody's out there and you just want somebody to talk to, you know, I answer my messages. I answer comments. And, you know, if you just need a place to start, someone to point you in the right direction, please reach out to me. But, yeah, I've taken a lot of classes in complex PTSD and trauma-related responses to medical care, for example.
Okay.
So, you know, if this is something that you're facing, please don't think that you're alone, because there's so many of us, and Cancer Talk, you know, on TikTok, so many other women and men that you can reach out to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wrap this episode and say thank you to Cozy Earth for my jammies. Go to carriemadrid.com to get that 40% discount, to connect with the podcast, to connect with me if you want to be a guest on the show. If you want a podcast, contact Chris. He's at thisisfunner.com. He is my producer, my co-host, my tech guy.
Me. I'm back over there messing with things.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out this.
Hey.
Thank you guys for staying with us. We're gonna end this recording.
Just push stop there.
Okay. What's my phrase at the end? Take care. Hey, take care.
Thank you for listening to Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. Please let us know what you think of the show by leaving a rating and review. And don't forget to share it with a friend. For more information or to connect with Carrie, go to thecareprojectinc.org.
Can you have zero interest in something and still really want it? Your wallet would say yes. And with Simply Zero from South Carolina Federal Credit Union, you can transfer credit card balances and get 0% intro APR for 12 months. That's right, no interest all year. So you pay less and keep more. To learn more, visit scfederal.org/simplyzero. That's scfederal.org/simplyzero. Variable APR ranges from 11.74% to 17.99% thereafter. Limited time offer restrictions apply.